From the Homestead Studios in Santa Clarita, California, this is a Headache Soul production. Welcome to Just the Tip-Sters, America's favorite true crime podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Morgan, and with me today is the beautiful Angelique Perrin. Hello, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm hanging in there by a thread. I think, I'm kind of hanging in by a thread. I'm going to take this piece of advice from the queen of the mystery writers, Agatha Christie.
Okay.
Because she did something, I didn't know about this. I really didn't know. First of all, did you know that she is the most read author, second only to the Bible?
What?
Agatha Christie has sold over 6 billion books.
Wow.
6 billion murder mystery books. She was an interesting, funky lady. She lived pretty long, like about 86. She just died like maybe 1976. So I was never a huge fan. My mom was.
Yeah.
I found them a little old-fashioned. And granted, they were written, 100 years ago. But it was just not my style. Like my mom loved Miss Marple and Hercule Poirot. And it's not that I didn't appreciate Agatha Christie's writing style. It just wasn't a thing for me. You know what I mean? You can respect someone's ability to write, but this is a fucking great story. I'm sorry, but it's just great. And I feel like I want to do this, not for the same reason, but for a different reason. So December 4th of 1926, Agatha Christie ended up going missing. Wow. The next morning, her car was found abandoned with the front wheels hanging over a large chalk pit in England. Theories were that she had committed suicide because she was driven mad by a nearby house had been the scene of a man's suicide and a woman's murder. That didn't happen. But that she was wandering around London disguised as a man. Now, in the meantime, her brother receives a letter from her that said, I'm going to be at this spa in Yorkshire.
Okay.
But the police are like, oh, no, that cannot be, that's not true. It's not from her. So they look for her for 10 days. Psychics held seances at the chalk pit, search parties, dogs. The story apparently became international.
Wow.
She was found safe 9 days later at a spa in Yorkshire, and she had checked in under the name as Mrs. Tressa Neal because she found out her husband was having an affair with Tressa Neal, the wife of a friend of theirs.
Ooh.
So she spends 9 days at a spa under the name of her husband's mistress.
Oh my gosh.
Agatha motherfucking Christie. Made it look like she died or,
something.
Suicided herself or, 9 days, but wrote a letter to her brother. Don't worry, I'm at this spa. Can you believe her?
That's brilliant. But her books, would you expect anything less?
Amazing. So she was married to Alfred Christie first, and then they obviously get divorced because of Tressa Neal. 2 years later, she marries a guy who's like an explorer in Egypt, and they met on the Orient Express, which she ends up writing Murder on the... Yeah. She used her own life and her life experiences to write these books. The play Mousetrap has run continuously in England for 80 years and stopped only because of COVID.
Wow. I didn't know that.
I didn't either. But as soon as I saw the story, I'm like, oh, Agatha, you're my girl. You get pissed at your husband for cheating and you go to a goddamn spa. But not before making it look like maybe somebody murdered you because you're a mystery writer.
Oh, my gosh.
I was just blown away. I was like, I need a spa day. Not 9 days, but... I would
3.
never fake. I'd take 3.
Yeah.
I'd take 2. Who am I kidding? I would take 1. I would take 1 really good spa day. I'd be okay with just 1, but I wouldn't fake my own death first or try and make it look like somebody offed me.
She could have gone so much further than that.
She could have. She could have written even better shit. Yeah. I was just so blown away. I was like, Agatha's my girl. Yeah. My mom had every damn thing she ever wrote. I don't know if I told you my mother's obsession with murder mystery. She loved Robert Ludlum, another writer, mystery writer. So, do you remember, you're too young, but back in the day, you used to belong to something called like Columbia House Records.
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, so you could get like 11 albums for a penny, but then you're signed into this terrible subscription service for. So they had the same thing with books. And my mother was a voracious reader. She could read a 800 to 1,000 page book in one night. Now, she didn't sleep. Maybe I get my insomnia naturally through DNA, but she didn't sleep for other reasons. She didn't sleep very long periods of time. She was also a voracious reader. So one day I show up at her house and there's a box by the door in my name. I'm like, oh, I wonder why I'm getting a package at her mom's house. And I bring it in, it's really heavy. And I go, there's a box with my name. And she goes, oh, that's my books. And I'm like, why is it in my name? She goes, because I belong to too many clubs in my own name. I had to use your name. Can you believe her?
That's funny.
She's committing fraud to get more books and using her daughter's name.
That's great.
That was Betty Morgan right there.
Oh.
So this story came to me from a local member of law enforcement, and it's a local case to us. It's in the Antelope Valley, so about 30 miles north of us. And it's a weird one, and the person in law enforcement who lives in the area sent it to me and said, do you know this case? And I said, I do not. And he said, weird thing is, I don't either. Now, he works in a different jurisdiction. He works for a different agency. The agency that is over this area is our local LA County Sheriff's Department. So she is technically a missing woman, but they believe they have reclassified it as a no-body homicide case. We still don't know where her body is, but it's been 6 years, and her father is sort of a badass, and he is really... He's like, look, I've had open heart surgery since my daughter disappeared. I want to find her before I leave this earth.
Me, as a father, I desperately want to put closure to this case. Our family is very distraught about her missing.
I have such a soft spot when someone asks for help. And those are the cases I really enjoy covering, even though I despise covering unsolved cases. This one is pretty personal, and he is such an involved dad and granddad because she had a 2-year-old daughter. He has gotten his own cell phone that he asks you call him with tips. And there's lots of ways that you can get a hold of people for tips. The LA County Sheriff's Department Homicide Bureau, which will give that number. There's a Crime Stoppers number. And do you remember me talking about what they had used as far as the Long Island serial killer? You can text a tip and be anonymous.
Yeah.
Apparently, the LA County Sheriff's Department has implemented the same thing.
Okay.
So I will have a text number that you can call, and it's anonymous.
Okay.
And I feel like there's a reason for it to be anonymous in this case, because it could potentially be gang related. And people who were willing to talk suddenly became unwilling to talk. Now, I've never heard of this gang, the AGK, which stands for Always Going Crazy. Crazy with a K?
No.
Yeah, I haven't either. In the class I took in the spring semester, we had to solve a drive-by shooting, and it was from the San Fernando Valley. And one of the gangs involved in this like car-to-car shooting were the Crazies. Apparently that you need to use the word crazy in your gang name. What had happened is someone drove into the wrong area and someone else said, what are you doing here? This is Crazies territory. Now that was Crazies spelled Crazies, and this is Always Going Crazy with a K. I don't know who names these gangs, but...
I'm pretty sure they name themselves.
Right. What I mean is I feel like they need a PR person. They need help. You don't think they need help?
They need help.
Okay, right.
They do need help.
I meant, with a better naming. Anyway, all right. So Jeff Figueroa is a grief-stricken father whose daughter Monique has been missing since 2015. So there's a $20,000 reward that actually got upped in 2018. It started as a $10,000 reward. They've now upped it up to $20,000. I honestly don't think rewards help. I don't think it brings the right people out. It brings people out who want money. But you know what? If a $20,000 reward can help someone who can stay anonymous say what happened here, I'm all for doing that. I don't know that they will. But Monique Figueroa, who is just turned 28 years old, left her house on May 19th of 2015. And her house is in Little Rock. I'm unfamiliar with the area. Have you heard of Little Rock?
No.
I thought it was Arkansas.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When the officer sent me this case, I was like, wonder why he's sending me a case from Arkansas. Little Rock is part of the Antelope Valley.
Never heard of it.
I didn't either.
Lots of rocks out there, though.
You're right. A whole lot of rocks. So she had a 2-year-old daughter that she left with her father, and she had a 2004 Mercedes-Benz. And she left her house at 4 a.m., and here's the bad part. She was just going to do one more drop. How many times have we heard this? Just one more job, and I'm going to get out.
Yeah.
And this actually was her plan. Her father had secured residence for her at a rehab in Tarzana. Mm-hmm. She was going to go through that. She was going to get clean and then go to school and leave the state because she grew up here and she had too many friends and too many associates, and she thought she would be pulled back into the life.
Right.
So her father had, I think he knew something was going on. I don't know that he knew the depth. And Monique's life is a terrible cautionary tale. She's beautiful and she's half Hispanic, but she's, blonde hair and blue eyes. And I think she struggled with the mixed race part. She usually dated white people, and then she started dating Hispanic people, and then she found this boyfriend who was half Hispanic, and I think she felt like she'd found, a comrade.
Kindred, yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's different. I don't think unless you are that you really get it.
Yeah, I mean, so when I moved here, I had dyed my hair black, and I have green eyes, and I was unaware that like Northern Italians have blonde hair and blue eyes. Completely unaware that when I think Italian, I think dark hair and dark eyes.
Yeah.
Completely unaware that people from Cuba come in a myriad of shades and whatever. I was confused as a Cuban constantly.
Because of the green eyes?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Black hair and green eyes, and dyed black hair, not natural black. I hilariously, like one of those meta things that folds in on itself, I was at a Mexican restaurant with a friend, and a man came walking up to the table speaking Spanish really quickly. And I turned to him and I was like, I'm sorry, I don't speak Spanish. And he goes, well, I thought you were Cuban. And I was like, no. So let's say a month later, I'm at that same restaurant with a different friend, and I go, the last time I was here, a guy came up to the table speaking Spanish because he thought I was Cuban, and a man came up to the table speaking Spanish. And I go, like that. And I go, I don't speak Spanish. And he goes, oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were Cuban. The exact same conversation that I was talking about happened when I was talking about. So, she's this beautiful blonde with blue eyes. I would never know she's half Hispanic. I wouldn't know she's anything other than 1,000% British or something. Mm-hmm. And people all, think that I was born with blonde hair, which I was not. So her boyfriend, whose last name, by the way, is Scottish, David McKell. David McKell, half Hispanic, and he was in prison for a murder.
And this is who she picked to?
Well, yes, there's more. There's some background here. She was a good student. She was a member of her church. She got awards.
Eek.
This is a cautionary tale that makes me ill. She had a boyfriend that she loved very much, and he died suddenly. And I think that plummeted her kind of into some depression. Yeah. And she ended up getting pregnant by someone who she wasn't going to be in a relationship with. She then started dating David McKell because, like I said, she found someone, symbiotic, who's half Hispanic and looks pretty white. He's a pretty good, family members have described him as being good to her, but he was not a good guy because he ended up killing a man over a $10,000 drug deal.
Okay.
So he's in prison awaiting, or jail awaiting his, he's now been convicted. He was awaiting, and she started using meth. After the birth of her daughter, she lost a lot of weight And I think she found that gratifying, even though it's the exact wrong way to lose weight.
Right.
And she was also able to hide it, I think.
The drug use.
I don't know how you hide meth use. After a while, I believe it just tears up your body, right? I mean, she didn't look torn up. So her boyfriend, David McKell, is a member of the Always Going Crazy gang. And she did a lot for him. She helped hide him a few times. She hid with him. She, while he was in prison, would, do drug runs for him. And it was this last big job. How many times have we heard that? It's our last big job. So she leaves. She says to her father, I'll go as soon as I do this one last thing. And he has to know what it is, but maybe he doesn't want to admit he knows what it is. But I'll go with you to the rehab in Tarzana once I do this one last thing. And she never comes back. And she would never do that. And he did get one last text that he believes is not from her. The text actually went to a friend of hers. And she said, I'm almost there. Once I get done with this drop, I'll be back in town and I'll call you. And her friend has not heard from her. Now, this information comes from the Beast, the Daily Beast.
I think it's a Daily Beast.
Yeah, the Daily Beast. It's actually a really good article. The things that I've found the most are from the Daily Beast and from ABC7, our local ABC channel here.
Eyewitness News reporter Leo Stallworth spoke to Monique's father, who continues to search for clues into his daughter's disappearance.
We want to bring her home and have closure. I can never have closure unless she is home with us.
Also, there's a Facebook page that her father and her family maintains. But the Daily Beast kind of shadowed her father for a while and talked to all of her friends and associates, and also friends and associates of David McKell's. So this was supposed to be, her last job. And her boyfriend David said, look, if there's any trouble, that you're going to get help from my friends in the AGK gang. So she tells her friend, look, I'm going to be, I'm almost there. I'm going to do this last drop. I'll be back in town, and then I'm going to call you. And then she's going to go with her dad to go to rehab. And her dad is like, please don't do this. Please get away from these people. She was going to go to the Tarzana Treatment Center. She's like, I promise you, Dad, I'm going to be there. They'd had lunch 3 days before this last job, and he had convinced her to go. And what's so interesting is that I've had a few conversations like this in my life, and you feel when someone relents, when you're asking them to do something difficult that you don't think they're going to do, and you see it in their face or their eyes. They're like, okay, all right, I want to do this. And then she just never comes back. And he knows that she's not coming back. He knows she would never have left her daughter and him. So a day or so later, he's like, look, I'm panicking. Jeff Figueroa calls the police. She's never been out overnight. I am filing a missing persons report. She's got to come home. She's never missed coming home. And then her dad and his ex-wife each received a text message from her phone that says, had to leave, be home soon. And the thing that's so interesting about an electronic footprint now is that try as you might to cover your trail, you don't sound like that person.
Yeah.
You know how everyone has their own way of talking? Yeah. The things they say, things they do, it just didn't sound like her.
The way they spell stuff, some people use a bunch of emojis,
Exactly. Use of punctuation, non-use of punctuation. I feel like one thing that has meant the world to me is several people in my life who I wouldn't even call them that close, but I've had reason to, email them or text them, have said, you write just like you talk. I think that's a good, besides the fact that if anything happens to me and I go missing, I have some tattoos on my body. If somebody uses my phone, I hope whoever gets messages would know it's from me. So, and I think that obviously her dad knew it wasn't from her. He just still maintains, look, that was not from her. They also had a code word that they would use if she were going to have to go into hiding. And that code word was never used. So he is being very honest. And when asked by journalists, do you think your daughter is coming home? And he says, no.
Are you still holding out hope that she might be alive, or you are pretty much resolved yourself to think, well, she's gone, we just want to find her body and bury her?
Absolutely. My daughter would have never run off, and I don't believe they would have kept her captive.
I think they've ended her life. You know, David McKell wanted her to do this one last job. And he said, you know, if there's ever a problem, the guys in the AGK will protect you. I think she felt somewhat protected by that, but obviously things didn't go well because she didn't come back. And 11 days later, her Mercedes is found parked in an abandoned shed in Palmdale. Now, here's the part that's uncomfortable. Obviously, the police don't want to release information that they think could, nullify a trial if we get to one. But they said there is signs of foul play.
Right.
So we can be left to our own devices to think, was there blood in the car? Some of her items were left in the car. There was something that made them think that she's not coming back, and why they classified it from a missing person to a no body homicide at this point. So McKell's in prison, and the detective who is handling the case, Karen Shanka, goes to visit him. And at first he says, I'll tell you anything you want. She said that he cried like a baby. She said, I know he genuinely loved her. I've really never seen anyone that upset. He says, I'll do whatever it is you want me to do. I will talk to people. We'll figure out what happened. Anything I can do to help you. Then she goes back to talk to him again. And he said, they're going to kill my family and they're going to kill me. I take back whatever I said I was going to do to help you. And what had happened in the meantime is that David McKell's mother, Sheila, had received a piece of mail, and it was a threat from the gang that had pictures of her and his daughters and said, don't talk. Now, here is a reason why they think that Monique met with foul play. Because she was dating David McKell, she had been approached by our local LA County Sheriff's Department because David McKell was involved in lots of different things with the gang, and she wouldn't talk to them.
Right.
She would not talk to them. She wouldn't give up anything, but they didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
And they thought she was a snitch.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why she disappeared, even though he's in the gang. Now, there's theories like he's a master manipulator and he can still rule things from jail. He can run the show, and his friends have done things like this. I don't think Jeff Figueroa thinks that David McKell orchestrated his daughter's disappearance, but I think he believes that David McKell knows who did it and he should talk.
Right.
And I think that's the truth. I really do think that's the truth.
Well, he at least knows who she was going to meet.
Yes, because it was part of his
it's
instruction.
His deal. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And David McKell ends up being involved in a couple more things that are uncomfortable. A co-conspirator with a fellow gang member named Richard Roach. They were assailants in a garage of a home on Monte Vista Avenue that there was supposed to be a drug deal. They duct taped a few people. They ended up being shot. They're not saying for sure that it was, David McKell, but he was definitely an associate of people that were involved in this. He wasn't squeaky clean for sure. When you're in a gang, I guess you can't be. But they were saying how much he loved Monique, that it was different, that he wanted to get out at some point. I don't know that he ever would have gotten out. I really don't. But I think to involve her and what he was doing was, I think he's going to regret that for the rest of his life.
I'm not going to say you can't love a person if you do that, but
Right.
I mean, you know what it is. You know danger's around
Right.
every corner.
Right.
You know she's going at 4 a.m.
Right. It's not
It's
because
not.
it's
Anything could
7-Eleven.
happen.
Right. Right. And the thing that one of the detectives said is, you know what? We didn't even need her as an informant anymore. We knew what was going on. What we needed were witnesses, and we couldn't use her as a witness because she wasn't there, but she still wasn't willing to say anything. He said, we actually spoke to Monique, and she wanted nothing to do with talking to us. And we tried to speak to David McKell, and he wouldn't talk to us either. She was given help by her dad and helped to raise her daughter. And then she wants to do this one last thing for her boyfriend, and she never comes home. And we know there's a lot of land up there that she could be a lot of places. They have gotten tips. They got tips in 2018 of where she could be buried. Apparently dogs hit on something, but then there was nothing there. I just have to tell you, as much as I love dogs, I'm not so sold on human remains detection dogs.
Right.
I just am not. I want to be. I really want to be. But, you know, in a big area like the Antelope Valley, a lot of open space, she could be anywhere.
Literally.
Literally.
I mean, that is just
Yeah.
wasteland. It's just desolate. There's just nothing
It
there
is.
for miles upon miles.
You know what's funny and ironic and awful? I was a BlackBerry girl. I loved my BlackBerry. Mark got an iPhone for work and brought it home, and I was like, well, this is cool as shit. And it was like, you know, you can ask it questions. So what does your asshole friend Melissa do? Hey, Siri, what's the best place to bury a body? And it said, I hear the desert is a very good place to bury a body. And I was like, holy fucking shit.
What? Again?
See,
I'm sorry.
she didn't answer the question this time.
No. What, again? You need to know again where to bury a body, you dumb bitch? I told you once.
The desert.
The desert.
And that would be Lancaster Palmdale.
I turned it off,
She
but she
doesn't
still
care.
heard. She doesn't care.
She doesn't care.
Yeah, it is. I do remember driving with Mark one time, I think on the way to Las Vegas. And, you know, there's a couple different ways to go.
Yeah.
But we went up, because we lived here, we would go the Pear Blossom Highway.
You go
way.
the back way.
Yes, ma'am.
Nothing.
Yes, ma'am.
Beautiful, beautiful view of the mountains. And if it's winter, you can see the snow on
Beautiful
it. But
Joshua
there's nothing
trees.
there.
Right. It's unfortunately a good place to bury a body. You know, I always got upset at the term desert rats. It's like, there's people here who live wonderful lives and just want to be away from society and have jobs. Not everyone is a desert rat, but it is a hotbed. There's not a lot to do there. So people end up falling into drugs, and people like Monique Figueroa, who had a beautiful life that she could have gotten straightened out, end up disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's heartbreaking. So even the detective said, you know, I think he regrets that she was attracted to him, because he feels that if she hadn't been, maybe this wouldn't have happened to her.
No, maybe it wouldn't have happened if you wouldn't have said, hey, Mo, you know, I got this thing.
Can you
You
do
need to
this
finish
for me?"
this up for me.
Yeah, I'm in prison. I can't do this thing.
But then if it is because they thought she was an informant, then it wouldn't have mattered.
I
They
think there's a
would've
couple of like
theories.
theories. So if you live in the North County of Los Angeles County, and if you know anything, and if you're not afraid to come forward, you could still get this $20,000 reward. You can call the LA County Sheriff's Department Homicide Bureau at 323-890-5500. You can anonymously call Crime Stoppers at 800-222-TIPS. That's 800-222-8477. Or you can text the letters TIP-LA, that's TIPLA, plus your tip to CRIMES, which is 274637. That's CRIMES, and that is anonymous. You can do that. You can text, you can call Crime Stoppers. And the last number I'm going to give you is from Jeff Figueroa, who said, please call me privately if you're afraid of retaliation. Please call me privately. I want any tips you have. And Jeff Figueroa's number is 661-944-7805. That's 661-944-7805.
You know what I always wonder? Like in neighborhoods, especially something like this where you know it's a small town, there's only one grocery store, everybody, like how, because you know something, how do you
Live with yourself?
live with yourself? How do you sleep at night?
I don't know.
How do you, I mean, we all have our little secrets, and some of us
Not a
have
homicide.
bigger secrets.
Right.
But something like that, it always just puzzles me how you can walk around every day and be all right.
I don't understand either, and that's why I've never been a fan of the reward program. It just the only experience I've had with that was with the Will Sarazan case, and there was a $25,000 reward, and literally the only people it brought out were drug heads who were like, this guy did this, and they thought that it meant if they submitted a tip they would get money, even though it says the reward is for the arrest and conviction of the person who took this person's life. They don't just write you out a $25,000 check because you said Bob Smith killed Jim Jones. It doesn't work like that. But I wouldn't do it for the money.
Yeah.
You know, I remember asking, it's one of those questions you want the person that you love in your life to answer correctly. Mark was the oldest of 7. And I said, you know, I'm an only child, so I didn't have this as a thing. But I said, if one of your siblings committed a crime, would you turn them in? And he said, no, but I would encourage them to turn themselves in. Mm-hmm. I thought that was kind of the perfect answer.
As someone who's not a mother, when I watch these parents ferociously protecting their kids, I don't understand it. You know what it brings up for me specifically when I was just talking about this is the woman in New York who got angry and pushed down the opera teacher. Mm-hmm. And she
on the subway.
Well, I think it was on the side of the street.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
She hits her head. She says that woman did it. I don't know why she did it. She just pushed me down. The woman dies. And where is the young lady who pushed this almost 90-year-old woman down? Hiding at her parents. And her dad, who I imagine is a good, upstanding man, excellent in the community, roots in the community. Police show up at the door and she's not here. Oh, you willing to go? Because if you saw what I saw, if
Right.
you heard what I heard, and you have raised this child, so she's a little hellion.
Right.
You know this isn't the first time she's been in some crap. This isn't the first time some mom knocked on the door. She's at it again. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
And so now it finally catches up with her, and you're going to protect her.
So the case I went to court for yesterday, Will Sarazan, the murder of Will Sarazan, his nephew Daniel is, indicted and will eventually do more time. And for 3.5 years, he went unarrested. And his father and he were questioned the day after because it was very apparent who did what and why and how and when it happened. Will went missing on a Thursday, January 26th. On Friday, January 27th, Daniel and his father, Chuck, by the way, Will's younger brother.
This is what I was getting ready to ask you. Was this his brother? Was it a brother-in-law?
Nope.
Mm-hmm.
They are both questioned in separate rooms in our LA County Sheriff's Department here in Santa Clarita, and immediately lawyer up. They're both interviewed for 3 hours. Chuck gives Daniel an alibi. Oh yeah, I got home from work at 4:30. He was there when I got there. Daniel said he left Will's house at 1:30. 2 days later, the neighbor says, hey, I have a security camera aimed at your driveway. Would you like to see it? Well, yes, we would. He left at 5:06 after pulling it. No, he left at 5:12 after pulling in the driveway at 5:06, opening the back hatch. We can't see what he puts in the back, but we know later it's Will because Will's blood's back there. And 6 minutes later, pulls out of the driveway. but his father said he was there when he got home at 4:30. They, over the weekend, secure an attorney. And it took 3.5 years before Chuck said, being interviewed by a detective from the LA County Sheriff's Department, when did you know it was Daniel who backed into the driveway from the video? And Chuck relented and said, the second I saw the video. And Chuck has been at every hearing supporting Daniel. And I've been at them too. And there's been a lot because there was COVID, and then there was this, and then there was that, and then it has been a long damn time. And his dad has been there at every hearing.
I don't get it.
His son killed his brother.
I don't get it.
I don't either. I don't have kids.
We don't have kids.
Right. I thought Mark's answer, would you turn in one of your siblings? No, but I would encourage them to turn themselves in. I thought that was a pretty good answer. I think eventually if they didn't turn themselves in, he might. But, I thought that showed a really good level of loyalty to your family and also wanting the right thing to be done.
Yeah.
So,
do the right thing.
yeah. And more